Good evening, YouTube Model Railroader fans. Welcome to the Boeville Newtown's vlog number 14 for 2018, and happens to be October the 29th, 2018. And not a whole lot, just a couple of real quick things. As I'm sure some of you saw on Facebook, I did get over to the train show this past weekend, the 27th, 28th. I was actually there on the 28th. And I don't know if you want to call it dumb luck, or if you want to call it just good timing, or how you want to look at it. However you want to call it. I actually found two things that I was looking for, and ended up getting, I feel as though, a very good deal on what I got. I actually did some research today and found that the stuff that I picked up is actually, I paid, I was right on the money. So what am I babbling about? Well, a couple of things. I've always been interested in switch locomotives. I've always been fascinated by, and I've got a couple. I've got a GE 44 tonner. I've got a couple of DDTs. I've got an SW7, I think it's like an SW7 1200 or something like that. Actually, did I bring it over here? No, it's still over on the layout. That's right, I left it over there. But I've always been fascinated with those, and considering the fact that I've got what's going to be a fairly small bridge route railroad, a switch locomotive isn't a bad thing to have. And to be honest, years ago, when I was a part of Model Railroader magazine, actually a part of, but when I was a subscriber to Model Railroader magazine, and saw David Pop's N-scale layout, the other things that fascinated me were Bud RDCs. And the thing of it is let's be perfectly honest, you all know me, I don't do things, I don't buy brand new stuff because I can't afford it. Number one, and I like to tinker. So about messing around with some of the older stuff, it's perfectly fine with me. I was talking to my buddy who actually went with me, Big John, and he actually picked up a rather nice little starter HO set. Even though he's in an S gauge, and he's going to stay with S gauge, he wanted something that he could just throw around the Christmas tree and so on and so forth. So he picked up a rather nice little Santa Fe Chief freight hauler. So it was a good show for him, and it ended up being a really good show for me, because like I said, I ended up picking up stuff that I had been looking for a couple of years. Now, if you all followed me for a long time, you know that a couple of years ago I actually went and got, if I can find it, yep, there it is. I found this dude. Now, this is a great little locomotive. To be honest, for what it is, it's a great little locomotive. The problem is it's an old AHM. I got it running, but it's got literally no pulling power whatsoever. So I kind of was like, I was rather disappointed with it. I was like, I should have waited and looked for something better. Well, lo and behold, like I said, we're at the train show shoot. I took this thing apart to take a look at it, and I don't think I got it back together. Obviously, I didn't get it back together correctly, and it's coming apart. I gotta figure out how the heck this thing is supposed to go back together. Oh, hey, I figured it out. Yay me. Anyway, so at the train show this weekend, and I've actually taken this thing back a couple of years. I took the KD coupler off of it for the time being. I am going to be going through and doing a KD coupler upgrade. Try and say that 3 times fast. Anyway, that's another story for another time. We're not going to touch on that tonight. So anyway, like I was saying, I went ahead and I found, I don't think this thing is still not quite, there we go. I gotta figure out how to get that. Oh, Okay. I came across something, and at first when I looked at it, I'm like, do I really want to pull the trigger on this thing? It's an Atlas, supposedly has a Kato drive in it, and I'm like, I know what I'm getting into. I know that Atlas builds a beautiful locomotive. Kato drives are like the old Athearn drives. They're darn near indestructible. They're basically pretty much bulletproof if you take, well, anything. And of course, we've touched on this before too. You take care of your stuff will take care of you. Bottom line. Doesn't matter if it's the real cheap Tyco that cost you $2 or if it's the $300 locomotive that you bought, straight from the factory. It doesn't matter. If you take care of it, it'll take care of you. So, I did. I ended up pulling the trigger, and for what I considered at the time to be a little more than what I wanted to pay, but it ended up being pretty good, I got this dude. This is an Atlas RS3, painted up for the Louisville and Nashville, which happens to be another railroad that I don't have on the railroad, not on my railroad, so that was pretty cool, something I don't have. It's a very heavy little beast, let me tell you, and the thing runs like a champ. The only thing I did with this so far is, like I said, I took it back about 20-some years and threw a hook horn on it, so it'll work with my rail. Of course, I still have a Katy on the other end. For those purists out there, I didn't take it completely backwards, but I took it back far enough that I can use it. So, that one there was a good buy, as far as I was concerned. I was like I said, it was on the edge of what I wanted to pay. But knowing what it was, I was like, you know what? It's going to probably be worth every penny, and it absolutely is. Like I said, it's a beautiful locomotive. I don't know how old it is. It doesn't have a box, which is fine. And it doesn't look like it was ever set up for DCC either. So it's a straight DC locomotive. Another plus, at least for me for the moment. Now, so that's out of the way, right? So, this is towards the end of the show, because I had passed by it, and I saw it. He actually had two of them. He had this one here, and the other one was painted up for... I don't remember what the other railroad was that he had. But I got this one. I wanted this one. Okay, cool. Sweet. Alright, so that takes care of that, right? So my buddy is like, hey, I want to go back and pick up, like I said, we had passed by all this stuff. We had gone back and taken a look at the modular layouts, and I apologize now. There was some beautiful stuff there. The guys were having a ball pulling these immensely long trains. In fact, the one fella had a consist of like 6 of these RS 1, 2, and 3s pulling like 95 cars across the one modular layout. It was absolutely mind-blowing. I was talking to somebody else, and they had a 90-some car train that was running. And the guy was like, oh, you should have been here yesterday. We were pulling 150 cars with one locomotive. I'm like, okay, whatever. It's nice when they're perfectly flat. But, the Mars... Sorry, knocking stuff over. The Mars group was there. That's the Meat Area Railers. The 4-county model railroaders were there. The FCME. And there was a bunch of others, and I don't remember all their names. But just outstanding modular layouts, of course. When you've got a large group like that, you've got people that have specialties in different things, you can do some amazing stuff, there's no question. But, anyway, so we go over there, we take a look at that, we swing back over, I pick up the RS3. And then my buddy's like, I want to go back and pick up that one train set that I saw. I'm like, alright, fine. So we swing back over there, and that was at the Yankee Dabbler. He picks up his train set, and he's like, well, it's only a circle, I'm going to go see if I can find some straight track. Then, of course, it's a Bachmann set. So it's like, okay, well, Bachmann Easy Track, somebody's got to have some of that stuff floating around here. Not at 2 o'clock or 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday. The show closes at 4. Basically, pretty much all that stuff is gone. Of course, we did find some. He's like, yeah, and I looked at him, I said, the problem is I don't know if you've got black ballast or if you've got gray ballast. And of course they don't tell you on the thing, so it's like, well, you know what, let me get it home, open it up, and then I'll find out what I got, and then we'll go from there. I said, okay, that's a better idea. So while he's walking around, I walked past this one set of tables, and they were kind of starting to pack stuff up. And on the table, there sits, just sitting there looking at me going, Ray, Ray, what am I talking about? Well, unfortunately, I still have it apart, because I took it apart to go ahead and change the couplers, but let me go ahead and see if I can put this thing back together real quick, so that you all get a chance to see exactly what it is. So, what's sitting on there is this dude. This is a Proto 1000 lifelike Bud RDC. It's heavier than heck. I mean, the whole frame must be made out of lead, because this thing is just unbelievably heavy. So, the price is sitting there on it, and I'm like, okay. So I look at the guy, I says, or I'm sitting there looking at it. The guy could tell I was interested. Unfortunately, my poker face doesn't work too well. So, anyway, I see the price on the side, and I said, you know what, would you take X amount? He says, you know what? He says, yeah. He says, but you can take them both. And what was he talking about? Was this. So I now have two Bud RDCs. And I was like, okay, fine. Well, I turned this one over and I realized what it was. And I was like, man, what it is. Let me take the top off because it's easier to show this way. It's a rubber band driven Athearn. And I know that these things are absolutely notorious for having issues. Now, it didn't come with the rubber bands. In fact, when I got it, it wasn't running. So I was like, well, okay, so I'll just make it a dummy and I'll tow it behind the other one, or push it behind the other, depending on what I want to do. I've got two Bud RDCs. One of them is basically a passenger with a baggage. I can go ahead and put this other one behind it and use it as a dummy. Right? Well, I get it home and realize that the guys had taken the power bar and unsprung it from the truck pickups. And of course, my buddy Big John is sitting right behind me, and I looked at him and I said, what are the odds? So I hooked it up to my power pack and turned it on, and darn sure enough, if the motor doesn't run. It runs like a charm. I'm like, okay, now this has really piqued my curiosity. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can find the rubber bands that I had. Well, needless to say, from working on a buddy of mine, that other buddy of mine, Jack, working on his old Santa Fe GP9, that was rubber band driven. Of course, unfortunately, that one there, unlike this one here that's got the universal coupling, that one had rubber coupling between the motor and the shafts. And that stuff is just shot. And I don't know if I can, I don't really, he was like, don't worry about it, don't play with it, you just keep it the way it is. I'm like, alright, fine. So I never messed with it anymore. But I had a bag of rubber bands that I've gotten from Athearn. Actually, I think I may have picked them up someplace else. It doesn't really matter. So I threw them on here, and the thing runs. I haven't had it on the layout yet. I have had the RS3 on, and I did have the Western Pacific Bud RDC on the layout already. Now, what interesting thing is, and I'm not sure how many people out there have actually messed with Bud RDCs, whether it be the P1Ks or the Athearn. And of course, I haven't messed with the Athearn on the layout yet. But I can tell you, it seems like, I'm guessing that the Bud RDCs weren't real quick. I mean, I know that they were used as commuter service when the passenger service started to drop. You know, they weren't, I mean, they were interurban for the most part, I guess is a good way to put it. This thing seems to be geared really, really low. I mean, you get to give it some gusto to get it to move anywhere, and I actually had it hooked up to the power pack here on the bench, and it's the same way. I mean, I can sit there and watch the wheels spin. So I don't know if that's the way it's supposed to be, or if there's some sort of an issue with it. Either way, the thing runs. It works. So I don't know if I have to take it apart and clean it up. I really haven't dug too deep into it. I was more interested in the RS3 more than I was the Bud cars, to be honest. So, but that's the thing. That's where I'm at. That's what's going on. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of work here. I'm not going to videotape it. I'm not going to videotape. Nobody videotapes anything anymore. Get with the program. I'm not going to record it. Unless, of course, I come across something really fascinating, and then I'll record. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish messing with the Atherin RDC. I'm going to go ahead and do some work on the P1K, and hopefully maybe I'll go ahead and I will take some shots of the 3 locomotives on the railroad. So for the moment, I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to keep you hanging. So we'll be back. That would be the Atherin Bud RDC. And actually, for what it is, of course, as soon as I say that, for what it is, it actually runs halfway decently. I'm surprised. Alright, you've heard the noisy thing. Let's go ahead and put the P1K RDC. The other thing I forgot to mention, and I didn't realize this, and sorry for movement. Apparently, there were a couple different styles of Bud RDCs. The Atherin one, I think, was just a straight passenger one. This one here is a lot larger, obviously, and it looks like it may be one that had baggage service with it. But you see how slow it's running, and I've basically got this thing cranked as far as it'll go. So, and I did just clean it. So I'm not sure if that's just normal operating for these or what. But it runs nice. Otherwise, and of course you see I had to pull the seatboard off so I could run this, or run the RDCs. But like I said, I plan on using this exactly right here. So, and it's nice. Okay. Well, that's it for tonight, folks. You all know the deal. Wait for the highball. Green tracks ahead. We'll see you next time. Be safe. God bless. See ya.